Girl, it's my first live ever, so
Welcome, welcome. Yes, yes.
hey, hey.
Super excited. Yes. So, first of all, thank you for making time to join me today. I really appreciate it. Let's turn this a little down some. All right. And I think we are ready to go. Whew, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So, Sharon, how are you?
I'm fine.
Awesome, awesome. So Sharon and I have been working together since November last year. And I wanted to get an opportunity to have you share with some of our family on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all of our platforms around your journey and how has this been for you. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and then you can feel free to chime in extra when needed and not where not. And then we'll take it from there. Yes, thank you for watching, Shelly. Okay, Sharon. So why don't we tell people a little bit about why did you decide that you needed to? What was going on when you started working with me? When you decided to want to work with me?
I felt like something needed to be different. I felt like I was running everywhere, didn't have time for
Mm-hmm.
anything. Mostly the things that were important to me. Um, and I almost, if there's a feeling I can describe, is like just trying to keep my head above
Right.
water.
Right. Mm-hmm. What was some of the most challenging things you were struggling with at that time?
I mean, simple tasks like cleaning the house, getting laundry done, sitting down and just relaxing, having time to think about what to do,
Right.
what's the next
Right.
step, planning, simple planning.
Mm-hmm. Why were those things so difficult for you? What would you say they were difficult?
The concept of time for me, it seemed like there was not enough time in the day, one. All the things that I thought were important that are not necessarily a priority.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was the relentless cleaner, like cleaning the house,
Mm-hmm.
doing laundry,
Mm-hmm.
doing the dishes. That by the time that, pretty much my whole days went like that, there was no room for other things that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So prioritizing is one thing, like what's important to you. Um, and nobody wants to spend their life washing dishes
Mm-hmm.
and doing laundry
Mm-hmm.
and feel like they have nothing else left after it. Oh, and then feeling exhausted
Right,
afterwards.
right. And that could be a very draining feeling. How are you feeling through all of this?
Uh, Tired. Uh, I want to say kind of like helpless. Like, what do I
Mm-hmm.
do? Um, I don't want to live in a dirty house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is what it takes for my house to be
Mm-hmm.
clean.
How do you
That's what I thought at the time.
Okay, okay. So you were feeling very overwhelmed by simple tasks. You couldn't really get these things done. One of the things that you mentioned to me when we started working together is that you were feeling stuck. Tell me more about that. Like, why were you feeling stuck?
Um, I want to say I was feeling stuck because I didn't know how to plan. Um, I didn't know how to
Mm-hmm.
prioritize what's important. And these days, I'm prioritizing what's important. And yes, the house is clean.
Mm-hmm.
The dishes are washed,
Mm-hmm.
the laundry is
Mm-hmm.
done without that feeling. A lot of it also was a cluttered mind,
Mm-hmm.
emotional baggage from the past, uh, for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And not knowing, like they were just buried deep inside that I had no idea that some of that
Right.
baggage was hindering my day-to-day life.
Wow. Wow. So how did you know that you needed to find some help? What was the thing that made you, I need to find somebody to help me?
Um, One day I was watching one of your videos. Are you feeling stuck? It sounded like one of those infomercials. Um, you had this post and it's like, is this girl talking to me? Like, what's up? So that's when I decided to reach out because I knew that in order for me to get somewhere, at least get through my days better,
Mm-hmm.
something needed to be done. And I didn't have the answer
Mm-hmm.
to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little about what it felt like to to feel like you were right above the water, or like you were trying to be above the water? What was keeping you there?
Above water, like right above water, or feeling like I'm
Well, how
sinking.
are you feeling? Were you feeling like you were right above the water, or you were like almost about to like try to make
Like the water was right here.
so why were you feeling that
uh,
way?
it's just I'd like to give a visual of someone juggling different balls,
Mm-hmm.
and once you got handle of two balls, juggling, here comes the third one. Once you're getting juggling the third one, here
Mm-hmm.
comes the fourth and the fifth one, and you're just like, in this huge balancing act
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to keep everything
Right,
balanced.
right.
Life
Mm-hmm.
with, life.
Mm-hmm. And you have a son, and you also have your husband, and you have a little one on the way too. So there's a lot of things there to balance that can keep you feeling like I'm barely making it, like I'm
Yes,
barely surviving. So you felt like you needed some help. You see this post and you're like, oh my God, I feel like your noise in my head.
pretty much.
So you reached out to me and we started working together. So tell me about what it was like when we started working together for you.
Um, uh, it was like, I remember one of the conversations we had when you were like, what's your biggest struggle? And I'm like, I don't have time. And you said, You do have time. I'll show you how to make time." And I'm looking at you like, how is that gonna happen? So these days, I feel like I do have time for those things that are important to me.
How are you able to, how did you make time? I know people watching are probably wondering, okay, well, how did you do that?
How did I make
Mm-hmm.
time? It starts with what's important to you, what's a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you realize what's a priority, you get to see where you're spending your time
Mm-hmm.
on that's not so much of a
Right,
priority.
right, right.
What's important to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whatever is important to you will pretty much come to light, and whatever is not,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Now,
There's there's no time for everything, but there are time for the things that are
right,
important to
right.
you.
And those were some of the big things that you and I worked on. So I think people will benefit from hearing a little bit about what were some of your biggest challenges through that part when you were like, oh, I don't have time, but then now you're like, oh, I do have time. What was the hardest part about shifting your mentality around that for you?
I came to realize that in like the most minimum ways, household stuff uh, are important, but they're not a priority.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Not a
Mm-hmm.
priority.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't skip life because when it's weighing between having time with my son, having time to exercise or having time to those things that are that truly speak to, you know, what's important to me, you know, then all the other things I was putting my effort and my energy to sort of like are important, but are not a
Right.
priority. Like they get done, but not over the things that are a priority to
Right.
me.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of people have different things that they define as priorities and they're like, this has to get done. And this was part of the things that you and I talked about when I was teaching you how to shift your mentality from that perspective to another. And I think it might be helpful for people to understand a little bit about why were you so stuck on wanting this task to dictate how your days went? Why was it so important for you to want to like check all these items of the list? Like, why was that such a critical thing to the point that it was keeping you barely above the water?
One is the idea of a house having to be clean all the time, otherwise you failed
Mm,
to keep a house clean. One, that belief, and that belief does not serve me.
mm-hmm,
It was keeping me from all the other areas important. And two, the lack of systems.
mm-hmm,
There was not a system in place
mm-hmm,
to, it was just, oh my God, it's a mess. Let me clean it. And then within a day or two, things
A
were
mess.
messy again. So not having systems, I want to say, was a big part of
Mm-hmm.
that.
And how much time would you say you were giving yourself around this time? So this is before when everything was basically running your life, instead of you running everything else. Like, how much time were you setting aside for you?
The minimum. And when I say the minimum, just doing the essentials like taking a bath, making sure I didn't stink, like stuff like that. It was just the bare minimum to keep me presentable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you were,
Even my sleep was
I
out
was
of
about to
whack
ask.
because of it. So,
Okay, so we start working together. When did you start feeling like, oh my God, I'm I'm sorting this out? Like, how deep into our time together you felt like this was worth it?
when determining what's a priority to me,
Mm-hmm. And I think that was like
then I started
our first or second conversation.
second, third
Yeah.
call, second. Yeah, it was more of an assignment that had to be followed through.
Mm-hmm.
So you told me to have my buckets of what's a priority to me, and then yeah,
That was the moment.
yes, yes.
I wanted to ask you, what have been, if you guys have any questions for Sharon, please drop them in the comments and we will answer them. Um, I wanted to ask you, what were some of the things that, so you came in with this idea of what was important and what you needed, what was the challenge you were having? Like, you had an idea of what was the biggest challenge you were facing. What did you learn? Like, were you right about those challenges? Were they the biggest challenge you were facing?
No, it was just keeping me from my biggest challenges.
Mm. So
Yeah.
tell us about what were the biggest challenges you were facing, which you thought they were the cleaning and having the house clean and living up to this expectation. But what was it that really was the challenge for you?
Emotional baggage.
Whew, it's a heavy one.
Emotional baggage. Yeah,
Mhm. How was it
emotional
when?
baggage from past experiences, from childhood, um, and the way that I was living my life today based on those experiences, which had to be let go a long time ago, were still prevalent in my life today, and I was not aware of it.
Mm-hmm, hmm. How was it realizing that for you?
It was first painful. It was very painful, like very, very, because of what I was seeing as, I want to say, struggle, as pain, as dark moments, and not truly overcoming them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How do you feel now about all of this stuff?
It all changed when I had to look for what good came out of
Mm.
it, and that was a lot.
I,
Like thinking about what not everything was
mm-hmm,
bad.
mm-hmm.
It's just the way I was viewing it.
And this is a very important thing for people that are watching to pay attention to, because a lot of times when situations don't go how we want them to go, we focus on, or how we think they should have went, we focus on all the pain that that situation would have cost us, or that cost us, and we get caught up on, well, this should have been this way and that should have been this way, and I hurt so much because of this, and I hurt so much about that. And the part that, I think you and I worked together to see was that there were so many other things that came out of this situation that were positive, that helped you become a stronger person, that helped you become a more loving mom, a more caring wife. And it was really hard for you to see that because you were so caught up on the negativeness that came out of that situation. And that's how a lot of us see, the things in our lives. We find hard time finding gratitude for things that happen when we don't like them, because we think that they are just messed up things that happen to us.
And the other thing was knowing that, or even acknowledging everything good that happens within one day that we miss because of it.
Right,
Like waking
right.
up, being able to do one thing in one day that sparks joy in you. You miss that when you're not watching, when you're not vigilant, when your mind is busy with all those other unimportant things, you miss that one blessing
Right.
that you might have had that day because one is focused on all the other things that are not important.
Mhm, mhm.
So that was big for me.
Wow. It's so interesting and just really a blessing to be able to hear your side of this story about it because I mean we work together, we talk very regularly, but I don't think we've ever really sat down to like look at this other side of it, you know, like when we're talking, we're working, we're doing the work, we're helping you unpack things.
Oh yeah.
So we're not really start to think about, well, how did it feel for you to kind of go through this part of the process? So I'm really excited that you were willing to kind of come on here and share it not only with me but also with people that are part of the I'm Healthy Fit family, and I'm so grateful for that. Um, so, what would you say was the hardest part so far of us working together? Like, what was the most challenging thing for you?
Shifting the mind.
So, tell us a little bit about that.
It didn't come naturally. I'm here talking about it now. It wasn't like one day, oh yeah, it's all good now. I unpacked my emotional baggage. No, it took a lot of searching, for, you know, asking yourself those questions. The questions I guess we should be asking ourselves every day. Why? Why do I feel like this?
Mhm,
Why?
mhm,
What can I do to change
mhm.
it? Those self-reflective questions. And sometimes, it's good to pause because it doesn't come to you at
Right,
once.
right, right. That's amazing. So, what are some of the changes that you've made in your life after our time together? After our first, like I guess, 2 months together, so that people can get a little bit of insight on what things that they can take away for themselves that they can implement in their lives to become happier and healthier people mentally. Like what and to unpack their emotional baggage too.
I would say that as humans, we work on our careers, we work on everything else in life.
Mm,
If we want to be for me, a teacher, you go to school and you pass your test, you do everything that you need to do, steps to become what it is that you want to
right.
become. But then there's that one portion, that's one aspect of our lives that we neglect, and is ourselves. Um, how can you be a good mom if you're not working on yourself? How can you be, good in your career, or, persevere in your career if you're not working on yourself? So for everything, there's a process. For everything else we want to do in life, if you want to lose weight, you research what is it, what are the best exercises for my goals. One have to do that for
Mm,
oneself, like for yourself. What does the best version of yourself look
right.
like? Who is this person you want to be? And then once you work on yourself,
Mhm,
everything else, it pours into other areas
mhm,
of your life.
mhm. And I really appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of us take ourselves for granted. And I know I talked to you and to or some of my clients about this, about just the importance of a setting time for us and starting the day with us and ending the day with us. Because if we put ourselves to the end of the list, we never make it to ourselves.
You never make it there, yes. But if you put yourself first,
Mhm.
it's not selfish, but you put yourself first, everything else will just flow.
So, why don't you share, if you are open to it, sharing a little bit about how you plan your day? I know that was a big thing for you when we started working together. It was feeling like you had no time, you couldn't plan your day. So, why don't you share with us how has that changed now?
I must say that it started with prioritizing and my prioritizing, a lot of it was fantasy
Mm.
because it was things that were not happening. There my but when I was putting priorities, I was prioritizing things I was not doing yet. But I knew they were important to
Mhm.
me. So once I realized that, it became part of my schedule. Part of my schedule. When are the best times to do those things that fill your bucket, as I would
Mhm.
say. And they have to be part of your schedule, because if they're not part of your schedule, well, at least for me, it doesn't
Mhm.
happen.
What were some things that weren't in your schedule before that are in your schedule now?
Um, Reflection time for myself. I want to say, how did my day start? How did my day end? How will I improve it? because sometimes you plan and things happen, and it's okay to accept them at the moment, but then reflecting on how can those things be changed. Game days, movie
Mm-hmm.
nights,
Mm-hmm.
um, the noise outside, it has to be blocked at times. So, but at the end of the day, it makes me happy.
I
So,
love it. I love it. So we have a question for you from one of our viewers. How do you change your mindset to put yourself first? I find that difficult.
how do you change your mindset to put yourself first? For me, it was think about everything you do in life. Think about the people, if you have kids, think about the kind of time and the kind of mother you want to be for them. Um, and it starts with you. So if you want, for me, it was more of this is the person who I want to be the mother who spends time, quality time with her kid. It doesn't mean 5 hours a day because that's not realistic. So even if it's 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever that is, make it a priority. But then it starts with you. For me, is I take my notes of what is it that I want to accomplish. I journal my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are plenty of things, but I would say start with that one thing that will make your day easier. Um, and again, I forgot the question. I always do
She
this.
always does this. How do you change your mindset to put yourself first?
Yeah. First is a belief. Some of us believe that, and this was me. If you take care of yourself, oh my God, I'm selfish. It's a narcissistic thing to do. Like, oh, you're thinking about yourself. But at the end of the day, if you're good, everyone around you will be good.
Amen. Mm-hmm. How important was it to you to have a mentor? Because I know a lot of people are always feeling like, well, I could do this on my own, like I got it. For you, how important was it to have someone to kind of guide you through this process?
It was, I want to say now it's good. At first, there was like this, is this going to work? Uh, how can this person from the outside kind of like come to the inside and give me, the one who's living this life every day, any insight on how to do things better? Um, but it was worth it. Yeah. I had to take a leap of faith, I must say. I didn't think it was going to be all gravy. It turned out way better than what I thought at first. But yeah, it's just taking a leap of faith and a different approach to everything I'd done before.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a different result, to me, you have to try something different.
Mm-hmm. How much of having a mentor will you contribute to your success?
How much of having a mentor? I would say a good 70%. And then the 30% is got to do the
You
work.
gotta do the work. 70% mentorship, 30% work. That's not a terrible equation.
Got to do the work.
Thank you, Sharon. If you guys have additional questions, please drop them in the comments for Sharon. She is a mommy, so if you are a mom and you have questions, please drop them for her too. Sharon, I think one of the questions that our viewers and anyone that watches this video later can benefit from is, how do you feel now? Are you still right below the water? What's going on?
Nope, nope. I plan my days accordingly to those things that are important to me, to my goals. And I would say I'm not like super exhausted. I don't have the feeling that whatever I thought was important was not accomplished. So that sense of accomplishment can do a lot and, propel you to get to where you need to
Mm-hmm,
get to.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I really appreciate you sharing that because I think people, when they're in it, you don't see light. You feel like I'm drowning in it. No one else understands this. No one knows how I feel. No one else can relate. And when you start working on it, if you have the right mentorship, and I think one thing I want to ask you is, you had to work with people before. Tell us about your experience with therapy, because you went to therapy, right? So how was that? Like, what was it that this work that you and I did together, how was that different than going to therapy?
Um, I want to say that sometimes in looking for help, the help that is given to you from, professionals at times is more, uh, you kind of like, for me, it was like talking about it, but not working on the things that needed to be worked on to get me to the next phase of life. And plenty of times, for people out there, I want to say that, medication sometimes is uh,
Is the answer?
one of those options, or it's recommended rather than, working on things that can pretty much be worked on without a prescription. So I chose to not go for it. I didn't think as an individual I needed it, so that was a little bit different.
So before we worked together, you did go to therapy, and there were some things about therapy that you found helpful. I mean, we are not here to put it,
No, no, no. I'm not saying by
you know
any
that.
chance for if
Yeah.
anyone feels like they need counseling or of any sort. It's just it wasn't the most effective method for me, and maybe I didn't give it enough of a try. I don't
Mhm.
know.
What was the method that I used with you efficient for you? Why did that work for you, do you think?
Uh, the self-reflection part, like, that part worked a lot. Like taking a deep insight and finding the root of things, even if it wasn't pretty.
Hey, that's my favorite part. You know that. Get into the root. Thank you, Sharon. And I think one of the last questions I want to have for our viewers, and y'all can feel free to drop your questions in the comments. Sharon is one of my clients, but she's also sharing in this particular live her experience working with me, and kind of how she was able to overcome her own challenges feeling stuck, and go from a place where she was feeling like she was barely above the water, where she's not even in the water no more. She is walking around the sand, living her life, her best life. Um, and we are answering questions around these. And Sharon, I think some other folks that might be watching this might be wondering if um if they be thinking about working with me or whatever. What will you say to someone that is like, hey, I'm considering trying that thing you try with Nori?
Make it a priority.
Ooh, okay. I heard it, right?
Make it a priority.
Why would you say that to them?
Because um, in working with ourselves, there is an investment. There's an investment of time, um, and then there comes the results. And when you weigh those in, the results are much greater than or at least complementary, like it complements the investment. So,
Thank you, Sharon. If y'all have any final questions for Sharon, please drop them in the comments. Sharon, is there anything else that that you want to tell people? Like, would you recommend them to check this out, and if so, why, or anything along those lines?
why?
Well, would you recommend anyone to like the Get Unstuck Coaching Program, which is the program that you and I have been working together with, and if so, why?
Yes, I would, for anyone who feels like, they want an insight about, their lives, or they want to work on something, whatever it is, get themselves to that level of self, improvement of oneself. I would say yes, I would recommend it because it gives you the tools to pretty much work on yourself and get yourself to the place where you want to be. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Sharon. Shelly asks, advice for an older woman So, Shelly, this depends on what is it that you're dealing with and what you're struggling with. You and I can talk offline if you want, and I can share some more insight on that.
What was the question?
Advice.
I'm sorry, I can't see the comments. I don't know why.
Okay. The question is advice for an older woman.
The time is now.
The time is now. Oh, I love that. The time is now. Look at
The
you.
time is now.
The time is now. And what does the time is now mean to you, Sharon?
It means things might have not gone the way you would have wanted to. And it's independent of age because I was talking to Nori yesterday about time. The time is now and accepting the moment because this is what it is for now. And any changes that anyone wants to make, they can always make it, but be in your now to identify those
Mm-hmm.
things.
So, Shelly, the time is now. Anything that you're thinking about, do it right now because that's how we get it done. That's how we get it done. Sharon, thank you so much for spending time with me. I had a question I was going to ask you, and then, of course, my mind just like, blink.
You sound like
Just
me.
went blank. Um, if y'all have additional questions to Sharon while I think about what was the question I wanted to ask her, please drop it in the comments. Oh, I think I remember. Sharon, how do you think your life would be different if you had not invested in yourself and if you had not done this program?
I have not thought about that, but I would say I would have been on the treadmill, just running nowhere. Still, probably.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you would still have been underwater? You probably would have had
Uh,
buckling balls.
I, I mean, I'd been in that place for a while, so I mean, I don't know, but I'm glad. I'm glad I'm not there. Wow, I haven't thought about
How
that,
many years
but yeah,
were you struggling with these things before we started working together?
it's an on and off. It's been on and off. Things I've had my high moments, but the lows have been lows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you feel better equipped to handle lows in the future?
Oh yes,
Why?
because I would know what that is and how to build myself to elevate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now you have the tools. One last question I'm going to ask. Edith said the time is now. Yes, it is. That is our word for 2019. Um, I've shared a lot of resources with you. I've shared a lot of tools to help you get through this place. And the question I have for you, and it's a question that I ask for my guests on the podcast too, is share. Can you share one tool out of all the ones that I've shared with you, or maybe more than one if you want to, that have been really helpful to your growth and to your journey? What's one thing that you can recommend to people to check out that we've gone through together?
Oh my God, the one about beliefs.
Ooh, what's that? That was so. That's the worksheet, right?
Yes.
So what Sharon is talking about is a worksheet
Woo.
that I develop for my clients, and it helps you understand what you believe and how to deprogram yourself. If y'all want that worksheet, you can let me know, and I can actually send it to you so you can check it out, so you can start healing on your own. So that was a really, really juicy one. You can share one more. That was a good one.
That's the one. And then aside from like the planning, planning my day,
Mm-hmm.
that one
Mm-hmm.
was very good as well.
So we share with Sharon a daily planner. Like I created this daily planner for her on how she can plan her days so that she doesn't feel like she's rushing through the days, and instead she feels like she has control over her day. And that's how she went from feeling like the day is taking me to I let the day decide. I let the day know what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. So these were two worksheets that we put together during our time together. And I think the one thing I want to share with you guys about working with me is that these are tools that are specifically made for Sharon. You know, yes, you might find these tools helpful, but these were things that she needed. And because she needed, we put them together to help her with her process. And a big part of working with me is that it is a personalized program. And we didn't really talk about that part, Sharon, that it is the type of program where there wasn't it is a personalized experience for you. What was it like to have something that was personally built for you?
it felt like, going to a buffet and getting what you want, despite of all the food that is there. Uh, it's basically it's what I need. It's what I needed. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. So Sharon shared some tools with y'all. If you want the tools that Sharon recommended, which is our programming worksheet and our daily planning worksheets, DM me or message me on Facebook and I will send them to you. I'm surprised you didn't share the four tendencies. That's one of your favorite ones.
Oh wow, yes, yes. I mean that was
So there's
yeah,
a book
yeah.
that
One of
Sharon
the
is also going to share because she's been raving
oh,
about.
that's yeah, that's my
I know.
favorite.
I'm surprised you didn't bring that one up.
Okay, because that's here more as a
hmm
resource. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So why don't you
yeah.
share with our viewers about this resource and how it has helped you?
So it's a book called The Four Tendencies, and it pretty much gave me an insight of why I have a tendency of doing what I do, and pretty much how to get yourself based on this tendency, this particular individual tendency, how to get yourself to get a handle of things better. It's very broad, but it's
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, because you kind of have to check it out first. Essentially, the Four Tendencies is a book that helps you understand how you handle inner expectations and how you handle outer expectations. And a lot of us don't really think about this, but it's very useful because it helps you understand how you can get yourself to do things and how you can get other people to do the things too. So by understanding them. So it's a book that I highly recommend. It's called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. When I put this live up, I'll put all these resources there for you. The book, if you want the worksheets, you can email me and I will share them with you. But again, understand that these are worksheets that I developed for my clients based on the needs of my clients. So if you have different needs and you come on board with me, we can also develop tools for you to kind of help you do that work. So Sharon, thank you. Do you have any final parting words? I know I've held you much longer than I probably said I would.
Ha 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 ha. No, it's
The
the time is now.
time is now. Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you have questions, DM me. I'm happy to talk to you about it further in the program. The Get Unstuck Coaching Program is accepting clients now, and I'm just grateful that my clients trust me with their healing and that and seeing them
Yay.
flourish and seeing them be in a much better space is truly the best part of my work. So thank you for coming on here and telling folks about it. I appreciate it.
Okie dokie.
Bye.